nothing too crazy on either side, just a variety of cards that could be useful. So we'll see how this goes. It looks like Leon is going to be starting here. Just starts off with a few Genesect, does have the Battle VIP pass, and that's exactly what you want to be seeing when kicking off a game.
Yeah, that's the turn one play you really, really want. Especially when you're playing Mew, you need those Genesects in the early game. They become absolutely huge. So getting the Battle VIP pass, which then gets you your Genesect, which then gives you, you know, your entire draw engine. And from there, you're basically in at that stage. So it's just that first kind of couple of turns, making sure you get set up, drawing a bunch of cards, and then you can start bringing in the disruption when you know that you're set up well enough that you can, well, I mean, you kind of already have weathered the storm, so to speak. So big search through, just double checking. We've got what we would expect at this stage. We've got 2 Genesect, we've got 2 Mew, and then the question becomes, can we search for anything else? Or are we going to have to start using some Fusion Strike systems to draw some cards and then hopefully trying to build up our bench afterwards?
Yeah, you've got some interesting maths here, of course, that if you fill out your bench, it puts that Raikou able to knock out everything on the board, whereas if you leave 2 bench spaces free, the max damage the Raikou can do is 180. So it does protect you from a Genesect getting knocked out if that's what's going to happen here, leaving that in the active. So there is potentially some reason to keep it narrow, but for the most part, you want to go as wide as possible, start that draw engine going, which is looking like the way Leon's going to be taking this.
Yeah, absolutely. We do see a Fusion Strike system there from the active Genesect. There's a Box of Disaster on that Mew there. Just double checking what that card is. Oh, and we get the card we only ever really see played in Mew, Featherball.
I love a bit of Featherball. Allows you to get both the Mew and the VMAX. Better than Nest Ball because you can play it even if your bench is full. So during those later turns, has more value because it finds you the VMAXs and the ability to thin it out of your hand by playing it. Where, of course, the Nest Ball can get a bit clogged up. But will allow you to find those Genesects as well, but not the Mew VMAX. So typically we see a little bit of a split between the Nest Ball and the Featherball. So 1 Nest Ball, 1 Featherball here for Leon seems to be that perfect ratio.
Yeah, absolutely. Lets you go and search for any Pokemon that has a retreat cost of exactly 0, which, as you say, is a Mew and the Mew VMAX. Now, we do see Power Tablet hitting the discard here, not actually doing anything but just getting it out of the hand. So it's not ideal, but you're generally doing enough damage to KO anything in Miraidon anyway. So it's not a matchup where you're desperate for that extra damage a lot.
We just see a Battle VIP pass there drawn. No empty bench spaces that can't be played. It's one of those weird ones where you want to be in a situation where you can't play Battle VIP pass on your first turn, because that means you set up nice and wide. But you also wish you could just get rid of that Battle VIP pass. You never have to see it again. So at this stage, Leon getting a pretty much near perfect start there. Energy attachment, evolution in hand, ready for next turn. A few Forest Seal Stones down that haven't been used. And now sitting in the active with the Box of Disaster on the Mew, which could come in and help some math later on.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we do see a deck check coming in from Maciej here. And, yeah, we've got a fleet-footed Raikou in the active, ready to draw a card if you need to, which I'm assuming at some point we will. And then, of course, it looks like we're in the middle of using Miraidon's ability here. We'll search for 2 basic lightning Pokemon. Chooses to go for 2 Fluffy here, which tells me there must be something else in their hand, because otherwise you don't go for 2. Like, if you've got nothing else in hand, you go for another Miraidon here. The fact that you go for 2 Fluffy means you don't really need much. Okay, yeah, we got an Ultra Ball and a Squawkabilly in hand, so that explains it. You don't need anything else there, so double Fluffy I really like, or double Mareep, because then if you get your Fluffy, you're good.
Weirdly, though, one of the Fluffy is prized, and they did check for that when they went through their deck. So putting 2 Mareep down, they're relying on hopefully getting that Fluffy off the prize cards as they progress through the games, knowing that in those final turns, having the double Fluffy will be amazing. But there it is, the Spiritomb, fettered in Misfortune, ready to come into play. And this could be huge. It could completely change the game. And we've got to see whether Leon has any answers to that. I think some players now are looking to play those 2 Fusion Energy, which we do see in Leon's list. Does he have the Alyssa Sparkle? The 1 Alyssa Sparkle could be found off of a Forest Seal Stone, which could change the game up.
I actually really like going for the double Mareep. In this matchup, your bench is fine. Mew does not go after your bench, and it means that when you hit Fluffy off your prizes, it is there ready to evolve and use immediately. I wouldn't do it against a Lost Zone deck with Sableye running around or anything playing Radiant Greninja, but against the Mew, having it sitting there ready to go as soon as you draw it off the prizes, actually a huge fan of doing that. So, we've got Squawk and Sea, sorry. We do have Forest Seal Stone there if you need it. We haven't hit any energy here, though. Oh, speaking of which...
We'll see if they can hit it here. Electric Generator, see the top 5 cards. You may attach up to 2 of the energy you find there to your Pokemon, and 2 have been found. And if that Miraidon is able to get into the active spot, there was an energy in hand, and so that will be able to knock out the Mew in the active. So we'll be seeing how the rest of this turn pans out for Maciej. It's definitely one of those optimal starts on both sides. So now what? What do we do? Is the Spiritomb enough to disrupt, or will the Mew VMAX be able to come back swinging and get the return knockout, putting it ahead?
Yeah, really good turn 1 here, just getting the free energy on that Miraidon, ready to go.
Switch available.
And you don't even have to use a Forest Seal Stone, which I love here.
Yeah.
You've got it there, you've got it established, you've got it ready to use, but now you can save it for later on. We've already said that in the mid to late game, that is where Miraidon struggles. So having that there just kind of ready for later if you need it, but don't rush to use it now, absolutely love it. With using it turn 1, desperately searching for that big KO, that's when you start getting into trouble in the late game. So everything about this just makes me think, you know what? Maybe Miraidon is awesome.
Also, I want to highlight there, you mentioned Miraidon has evolved a lot as a deck when we were speaking about it earlier on. And as you can see, there's an EXP share on the Miraidon. Now it won't be relevant because it's probably going to be in the active and the Pokemon doing the knockout, so it won't be relevant then. But it is a card that we're seeing brought into Miraidon as a way to stabilize the deck in the late turns where you don't have that natural draw. If you have the EXP shares about, it allows you to retain that energy. And boss as well.
That was nice.
Very good.
Get the better Mew, get the one that is a little bit better. So yeah, love that. Get the KO, go up by 2 prizes, and now really put it onto Leon here to try and make sure that you can get the return KO. So, I mean, need the VMAX, you're going to need the double turbo, and then I believe, is it one modifier?
Yeah, you'll need that 1 modifier. It's 220 hit points in the Miraidon. Double turbo energy, doing Techno Blast will do 190, so we'll need to find 30 damage. So using that Forest Seal Stone to get the Alyssa Sparkle, now as we mentioned, that is the new inclusion as a response to Spiritomb that we're seeing in the Mew VMAX deck. And with those 2 fusion energy, that's going to make that Spiritomb less effective. It's still been disruptive. It's forced a resource away from Leon, making him have to find that Alyssa Sparkle off of the V-Star rather than any of the resources that were needed. But now it's all about, can that 2 Genesect that are available now draw through the deck? Because fusion energy makes Spiritomb's Fetid and Misfortune ability no longer affect those Genesect.
Indeed, but it's not just wasted your supporter for the turn.
Nope.
You're still only having 2 of your 4 Genesect.
Oh, yeah.
It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, it's better than having none, but this is not a perfect situation by any stretch. So we see a double switch card here just to try and empty cards out from the hand. Powpad doing exactly the same, getting a Lesser Sparkle back into the deck. And a lot of this is literally just Leon trying to get his hand as low as absolute possible. So the Fusion Strike systems they do have access to are going to be that much more powerful.
Yeah, that Powpad, not ideal, not wanting to put an Lesser Sparkle back in because it is essentially useless now.
Yep.
But it does allow more draw off of this first Genesect, and that's what it is right now. Can you find a double turbo energy? It's going to be a few Ultra Ball as well, which is good to thin the hand. And there it is.
Final card does actually hit it. So we do have an attack coming out here. We are still going to need a modifier. So there was that 1 power tablet that was discarded turn 1. So that is... it's going to be something you're going for, of course. Choice Bout won't help here because Miraidon is a Pokemon EX, not a Pokemon V.
So needing that modifier here off the next 5 cards. There is an Ultra Ball left in the hand as the final card, but being able to use it to thin that hand down, getting rid of a part of the peak and a Battle VIP pass, you know, this is a huge turn. Anything beyond anything less than a knockout is not good enough at this stage. Really needs to try and find a way to get this Miraidon out of play. Will they find the power tablet here? Oh, not quite. Not quite able to find it.
Got Lost Vacuum, drew back into the Lesser Sparkle, which is put in with a power pad, which is not really what you were looking for, frankly. So now you are going to see the Mew come up, but the Mew should only be doing 190 at this stage with a double turbo and no power tablet. So that's not going to be...
Yeah, just go for the Max Miracle, because if
Yeah.
you're not getting a one-hit knockout, you may as well at least get rid of the negative effects of Techno Blast, where you can't attack during your next turn. So
Yep.
110 from that Max Miracle. The Mew VMAX should be able to sustain a hit here, but that's energy on board. So Raichu in future turns will be able to get access to that. We're basically just stabilizing the board state now for Maciej. It needs to try and get as many of those Flaffy down, start setting up to be able to get the Raichu later on. But with a full board right now, there's not a huge amount that can be done other than getting the Raikou into the action maybe for an attack or using a switch out to get things going again.
Yeah, there is a way to KO the Mew VMAX, but you basically have to have Zapdos down to do an extra 10 damage, and then you have to get 5 energy discarded with a Raichu, so you do 310 in total. It is possible to get the KO on the Mew like that, but that's something you have to set up for the turn or two beforehand. You're not just dropping that out of nowhere with a full board, like you say. The fact that there's a full board doesn't give you too many options, but here comes an electric generator. Will this open up some stuff? Yes, a double hit.
Oh, again as well, and that's going to allow the Raikou to come be another attacker. And with the full boards on either side,
220.
if a Genesect is available, then that will be a knockout. And the other advantage you got right now is if you attack into the Mew VMAX, it can't heal that damage. There's no room for a Mew V, so there's not going to be any Psychic Leaps available. So this board is very much in favor of Maciej right now.
We're also 4 rounds into the stream today, and we have seen all 3 of the legendary beasts. And if Raikou attacks, we've seen all 3 of them attack, which is not something we see on many streams.
Big up Suicune coming back, a resurgence.
I know, right? That's usually the one that lets us down, but we've seen that. We've already seen Entei. We've now got Raikou, who's the one we actually see most often because of how wonderful Miraidon is as a deck. So, what are we eyeing up here for Maciej? We've got... It's a big decision. Eyeing up an Arven.
Okay.
But instead choosing to put a Beach Court down and then playing a Judge. So that's opening up an easier retreat option and then putting Leon down to a 4-card hand, hoping that that combined with only having access to 2 of the 4 Genesect is going to slow Leon down enough to allow Maciej to just kind of keep running away with this.
Yeah, I guess at this stage, swinging into the Mew VMAX isn't ideal, but there is no way now that you've played that Judge to get a Genesect up, so it will just be an attack into Mew VMAX. Means the Box of Disaster can no longer be effective if there's damage on that Mew, because it's only from one-hit knockouts.
Yep.
So there is some advantage to this, and knowing that Leon missed the knockout means you've got a little bit more time to do the things you want to do. So that Spiritomb's Disruption, forcing the Lesser Sparkle to be the card taken off the V-Star, was enough to sway that last turn in favor. So it just shows you how powerful the addition of Spiritomb can be in these matchups.
And in the same way I said those Mareep are generally quite safe because of what Mew doesn't tend to play, same thing with your damage Miraidon. You're still going to have to actually go and KO it normally, whereas other decks would be able to kind of spread a bit of damage and finish it off. So now we see the Lightning Rondo coming in, doing 220, 10 for each bench. I believe there's 20 for each bench, plus 20 base should be 220. And it's not means the Mew is KO'd, but you know what it does leave Mew in range of?
What's that?
It's not leave it in range of up you very much. Is it too far away?
Oh,
that's
yeah.
90 away, and that's 4 prizes.
Yeah, it could go. That could be the way to finish off the game.
I mean, I'm just saying, amp you very much for 4 prizes. That would be a cool end to the game. And Mew's down to 90 HP remaining at this stage.
Yeah, that's asking a lot, to be fair, though.
I mean, it is. It'd just be a really fun end to the game.
It would be. I agree with you on that. We agree on something about this deck.
But in all seriousness, this is where the double Mareep comes in handy. Because if you can get both of them developed into Flaffy, And I don't know if he's pulled the one out of the prizes
He
yet.
hasn't.
I'm assuming he hasn't.
No, he hasn't.
Oh,
he would have
a bit of
evolved it, wouldn't he?
Well, that's why I'm thinking he probably hasn't. So that is a bit of a shame. So it would mean another double generator hit, which after getting 2 is a lot to ask. Plus Flaffy, plus energy from hand. So it's probably not going to happen.
I mean, the more likely scenario here would be to set up another Miraidon and just swing into the Mew and accept that your best out would be an escape rope or a boss's orders later on.
Absolutely.
But it's still not ideal. Maybe even just a sacrificial Mareep in the active to give yourself a bit of time. We shall see. This is the advantage of Mew. The end game can be disruptive. You know, a path plus some kind of hand disruption could definitely put Maciej in a weak spot. But at this stage, Leon needs to start taking prize cards, and this looks like it's going to be the turn. As a new Mew VMAX comes into the active, refreshes that, forces the Gust out, knockout on the Raikou, and there we go. The Mareep gets pushed forward. Beach Court is available, so it's not going to be stuck there forever. And the hand is not looking ideal.
No, and what you do not want to have to KO 2 Mew VMAX in this matchup. You want to KO 1. KO 1, and then a couple of smaller things, or the potential hilarious amp you very much for 4 prizes. That's what you're going for. Trying to go through 2 VMAXs, if that's all you do, that's fine. But after having KO'd a 2 prizer to then go through 2 Mew VMAXs as well, you're basically taking just 8 prizes at that point, and that is not an efficient prize map. So here, you really don't want to attack into the Mew. The good news is the deck does play Escape Rope, and anything coming up off an Escape Rope would be fine here.
Yeah, that Zeraora coming down. There was the Miraidon in the hand, but recognizing that the 1 prizer could be a good little attacker that doesn't necessarily give away too many prize cards, especially if we can see it knock out a Mew VMAX after the Miraidon. So the Zeraora does 80 damage with the Mach Bolt, which isn't quite enough to knock out the Mew VMAX from before, but with a Zapdos it would be. And you've got the Battle Claw, which does 30 plus 30, so it's not quite putting the damaged Mew VMAX in range. But like we said, if there was that Zapdos down, which I think got discarded earlier, then that would make it possible.
Now we do see a Flaffy finally coming down. Energy goes down onto the Flaffy, which usually signals... Okay, so we do just see a 60 onto the Mew. I kind of like this. It seems like we might be setting up for a Raichu play, because this leaves Mew on exactly 250, and we have just left a random energy on a Flaffy. So this does open up a potential Raichu play in a minute. Okay. And honestly, nothing else really hits 250 from Miraidon, so numbers-wise, that's what I'm thinking here. You brought Mew down to 250, that's probably for Raichu.
Yeah, Maciej just recognizing this is no longer a winning game if I just keep swinging into the active, so I'm going to have to change my route to victory and try something a little bit less orthodox. And so we'll see whether that affects Leon here, or whether Leon can find a Gust out to get around the 1 prizer. You know, if that Miraidon goes down this turn, it's pretty rough for Maciej to come back into this.
Yeah, and it's not just the prizes, it's also the energy. If Leon attacks into the Zeraora, and that's obviously a big if, we'll be sitting there. All you will need is an energy from your Flaffy, an energy from hand, and a Raichu into the active, and you've actually got the KO on the Mew VMAX, and then you've got a Miraidon that will KO anything else on the board. Oh, but it's a heads off of Cramomatic, and you've got to think this is for some kind of gusting.
I mean, if you hit heads off of a Cramomatic when you're digging, that's the dream solution.
Yeah.
As you know, not only the effect of getting rid of cards in your hand to help you draw, but that occasion where you flip heads, you do find any card you want, and it is going to be the boss's orders to get the Miraidon up. And once this goes, like you said, a lot of energy disappearing, it'll also mean the Miraidon to get out the Raichu that we're describing is no longer possible because the Miraidon in hand would be placed down, fill up the benches, no room for Raichu. So this makes it very tough for Maciej.
Yeah, the play I just outlined really relied on the Zeraora in the active being KO'd. You had your Miraidon to search out your Raichu, you had Flaffy for 1 energy, you literally just needed a pivot and an energy and it would have worked really, really nicely. But now taking this Miraidon off the field, which is your search, plus taking the energy off, then you got a path to the peak, so if another Miraidon comes down, then that ability isn't going to work so well either. it's all getting a little bit awkward at this stage. Leon's going down to 2 prizes remaining, and frankly, he's put himself in a fantastic position here, to the point where Leon's actually left his really heavily damaged Mew in the active, basically going, I don't even care at this point if you knock it out.
I mean, it just improves the effect of the Iono that's in his hand. So if you want to knock out the Mew VMAX, so be it. You're going to be going down to 1-card hand, but at this stage, a way to get that Squawkabilly up would be game. Otherwise, it's going to have to go through a few 1 prizes. So we'll see what the game plan is here. It's
just 2 turns, and then Leon wins. Maciej there, unfortunately, just hit with Zera Aura, but didn't take a prize, so it's back over to Leon. And then Leon can just retreat, attack with Mew, and then you've got 2 Mew V Max and so many options of things to KO on Maciej's board. I just think we're at this point, it's just a matter of time. Like, it's not going to be this turn unless you hit Gusting. I suppose it could be, but it's almost certainly going to be next turn.
He doesn't need to do it this turn.
That's my point.
I think he's going for it because he's worked out how many cards are left in deck. And is just going to be... I'll just realise that there's a Path to the Peak in play. Got rid of the Forest Sealstone rather than the Path to the Peak, I believe. And now he's realised that's a bit of a misplay.
It is, but you've still got 2 Mew, each of which have free retreat, and each of whom have enough energy on to attack. You don't really need anything if you're Leon. Like, it would have been nice to win that turn, but Leon's still got like 1 prize remaining and 2 attacking Mew. Doesn't really matter.
So in the end, was fine there, but a little bit of a mistake at the end. Leon just looking to draw all of his deck to get down to that boss's orders that was available to win it in that turn. In the end, only need to go through the 2-1 prizes, and will be scrappily taking game 1 here with Mew VMAX, the deck that he won Liverpool last year with on this very stage, as you can see. Not happy with himself at the end there.
We've all been there. We've all done silly things like that time and again. We said earlier, it's stressful playing on stream. We all get it. We've all been there. But it really didn't matter in the end. Like, it would have been nice to win a turn earlier. But when you've got 2 attackers, each of which have energy, and you need to take 2 more prizes to win, it really didn't matter at that point. It was a win more.
It was quite funny as well, the way he set out his cards ready to do the turn, as he knew exactly what he had to do, and then just missed 1 vital step in it. And that's why I think he was so annoyed, because he took the time to be meticulous to make sure he didn't mess it up. And of course, it can happen to anyone. But in the end, still getting the win, and that just shows you the power of that end game disruption from Mew VMAX, able to completely shut down the opponent's game plan. If there is no inbuilt draw support within your deck, especially like a barrel engine is always quite good with Path to the Peak, but things like the Mew that we spoke about, Mew EX, that gets shut down by Path 2. So in those end games with a Judge or an Iono plus the Path, completely blocks off Miraidon from keeping that powerful, aggressive deck going.
It does. And one thing to remember, go back to the beginning of that game, I think the first 2 generators hit 2 energy each.
That is very true.
We had a phenomenal start from Maciej there.
Yeah.
And yet, Mew still came back and ended up winning that game. And that was like best case scenario for Miraidon for those first couple of turns.
I wonder how much the double Mareep ended up blocking the board. Perhaps that was part of the struggle. Especially with one of the Fluffy prize, it definitely was a big risk putting double Mareep down. But obviously, if you had 2 Fluffy in play, that's when the Iron Hands that you were threatening earlier on, that can be the kind of card that can come through and win you a game. So I can see the thought process behind it, but just 2 switch there in the prize cards. Not many switch outs in general in Miraidon, so that could affect them there. But for the most part, nothing too much to worry about.
And we are off with game 2, and it looks like we've got an early Ultra Ball from Maciej there, which shows you probably not having a Battle VIP pass in hand. And you started Raichu, which is not really a turn 1 Pokemon in this deck. You want to wait a turn or 2 for that. So not quite seemingly the same start as last time. But of course, we know Miraidon gets everything.
Yeah, I mean, who needs Battle VIP pass when you got Tandem Unit? And just 4 Ultra Ball in the list for the Miraidon.
I don't know why I said Battle VIP Pass. Miraidon never plays Battle VIP Pass because you've got Tandem Unit.
Peony sometimes, Peony builds on occasion.
On occasion.
Helps with the Squawkabilly strategy of the Peony. But they only ever play like 1, maybe.
Yeah.
But of course, you know, that Miraidon coming down will start to fill out that bench, thin out the deck from all the Pokemon. and increase the odds of stuff in the future. But outside of that Miraidon, I will not lie to you, there's not... Is that Squawkabilly as the final card? I can't see what that was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a Squawkabilly.
You reckon?
Well, I mean, I only got a super quick glimpse at it, so I don't know.
I mean, checking the Fluffy are both in there this time, and they are. Ooh, going for the Zapdos.
Can we just point out, we had double Mareep down without using Tandem Unit.
That was fun, but it's also...
That's weird, right?
In a weird way, that's not what you want, because then that means the cards in your hand weren't other useful cards that you want to see. So maybe it could affect Maciej this turn. Let's see what they get. What is this final card? It was a Squawk, right?
I thought... Yes, it is.
Yes,
It's Squawkabilly and a
energy.
Lightning Energy.
Yeah. So Lightning on the active. Oh,
No.
that's not how it works. There we go. Squawkabilly going down.
It's because it works so similarly to Professor's research,
Yeah.
but you still have to have Squawkabilly on the bench.
Yeah, what a pretty good start then there, isn't it?
It is, but I'm just checking the list. You said about switching options. 2 switch, 1 escape rope. That's what Maciej's got in his deck. And both the switch are prized. There's 1 escape rope. That is all the switching options left in deck. Unless I'm misseeing something on the deck list here, that is not ideal.
Playing the 2 Beach Court can be useful, but then that's where, you know, the Fluffy is the most likely target to get stuck in the active. So you have to be careful with that. Same thing with the Zapdos. Zapdos can get a little bit stuck in the active. Outside of that, 1 retreat cost across the board can allow for a little bit more safety, especially with those Beach Court. And now it's over to Leon. How well will Leon set up here?
I mean, to be fair, Maciej did a very good job there, ending with a Raichu with 2 energy. And you know you're not getting KO'd on turn 1 from Mew. Mew, well, unless I don't believe there's...
No,
is there a Meloetta?
No, there's no Meloetta.
Okay.
This is a non-fusion package build. There's only the 2 fusion energy in there and the Alyssa Sparkle to get around Spiritomb.
Yeah, that's what I was assuming. I'm just double-checking the list, make sure there's not a Meloetta I'd missed earlier. So you know that you're not getting KO'd turn 1, so you can leave that Raichu in the active with the energy. And this is where things start getting a little more awkward for Leon, because, we see an early Forest Seal Stone here. Is this for another Battle VIP pass, do we think?
Oh, 100%.
I mean, it has to be, right?
I mean, to get the Chromatic to find that first Battle VIP pass is near perfect. So to get 2 Battle VIP pass off of those search at any card in your deck style effects, it really is such a big factor with the Forest Seal Stone in Mew. It increased the consistency of it by quite a lot, because you got 4 Battle VIP Pass, 3 Forest Seal Stone, so you essentially play 7 Battle VIP Pass in those starting hands. So the likelihood of you setting up with a Battle VIP Pass is incredibly likely if you choose to use a Forest Seal Stone for that. And if not, it's a great late game effect that allows you to get out of some rough situations.
And it's also worth noting that Maciej here has got a full bench and no Spiritomb down, so Leon knows that until he takes a KO, he's got full access to those Genesects, unless he himself chooses to put down a Path to the Peak like we saw in the previous game. So that gives a little more freedom here. We actually do see that 3rd Genesect coming down. 3 Genesect, 3 Mew. And Leon's setup here is going quite nicely. You're not going to be getting an early KO here, but you can set yourself up beautifully for turn 2. And Maciej here, there's not a huge amount in terms of attackers, and you really don't want to be attacking with Raichu early in the game to take down like a Mew V. The whole point here of Raichu is that is your big thing, and especially with a Zapdos on the bench as well, 5 energy Mew V max. That's what it's there for.
I mean, the whole deck of Mew V Max with Genesect has been solid ever since it came out. I don't think there's ever been a format where it's not been a good decision to play. And right now we're seeing one of the most prevalent players of the deck showing us exactly why, and it is that consistency. It is the deck that plays more games of Pokemon than most other decks, just because of that early setup, the Genesects on board, and allows you to go through it. I mean, the only way to beat Mew for a lot of decks is to specifically tech for it. And when you're a deck that's that powerful, I think a lot of top players have described Mew as it's the best deck in format if there wasn't any techs for it, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that Spiritomb does exist, the fact that Drapion does exist, and a lot of these decks are finding ways to disrupt it, that's where it's struggled a little bit at times. But right here, we're seeing the adaptation. Spiritomb, not a worry for Leon, as he has the Alyssa Sparkle double fusion energy to help.
Yeah, we saw an electric generator, first one of the game. It hit 1 energy, not the double hit. We then see an attachment from turn, but that's not going to be enough to launch an attack. We see a Judge here. Going to put both players down to a 4-card hand. Right now, though, there's no real attack coming out here. Yes, I am well aware that Dynamic Spark could do... I mean, you could even KO the Mew with Dynamic Spark, but I don't think that is a particularly efficient use of energy, not unless you've got both those Flaffy set up super early, so...
Could be risky.
I think we're going to need another electric generator to get a decent attack off here, is what I'm saying.
This is the other thing about the stability of the board for Mew VMAX. When you use Judge or Iono into it, when they've got a 6-wide Pokemon field, so 5 on the bench, 1 in the active, they can always get out of Judge and Iono because they've got so much draw to help them there. It's only if you add that Path to the Peak in and they don't get access to the vacuum on the turn, the lost vacuum, then it can be a bit of a problem. There is a Path to the Peak in the Miraidon build, I believe.
And there is a generator hitting the discard pile now. It looks like changing his mind. There is a generator in hand. If this hits, that would allow a, well, if we play and hit an energy, that would allow a turn 1 attack. It seems like we actually are using Raichu to attack there, so Dynamic Spark comes down and actually does go and get the KO on the Mew. Free energy discarded, 180 damage. Had a chance to play Electric Generator and maybe get the KO with Miraidon. Instead, chooses to get the KO with Raichu V, which I'm going to be honest with you, Mike, I did not see coming.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers do work out perfectly. 180 hit points on a Mew. That will be exactly the 3 energy for Raichu. But like you said, that's energy off the board. So that makes a lot more work down the line for Maciej. And we said how much the end game, it can be tricky for the Lightning deck. Miraidon not as strong towards the end. So powerful early. Consistently getting those first and second turn knockouts. It really does come down to, can they deal with the disruption that Mew will likely be putting on here. And as we see on the other side, Leon doesn't have an energy on board, does now have the Mew VMAX, so has to try and work out what's going to be going on for the rest of that turn.
Yeah, and important to note that you will... there we go. I was going to say you will need 1 modifier to get the KO here, because you're still doing that 190 generally with Mew, but we've already just seen the power tablet come down, so that's fine. Just need double turbo energy and a Mew VMAX, and you will get the KO quite nicely here. There's the Mew VMAX.
Lovely stuff. And is that an Iono in the hand as well? Oh, going for the boss instead.
Oh, I like this, because I think Miraidon is a much better target than Raichu is right now.
Oh.
What are you owing?
Oh, just oohing at the fact that that hand doesn't look very thinnable. There was the Feather Ball and the Mew VMAX, but outside of that, going to be tricky to get that hand down. 2 Battle VIP pass. You know, it could all change off of a few cards, a Cramomatic or an Ultra Ball. But of course, you know, if your hand clogs up fully, it can get quite tricky to find that last piece. And the double turbo energy, I believe, hasn't been found yet. So that is the final piece needed to get an attack off.
Yeah, and if you don't find that, there will be no attack. It's one of the problems of a deck like this. Can we find it off of here? Not yet, we can't.
Not great. Oh, this isn't great.
It's not ideal when you're only playing 4 real energy. Yes, I know there's some fusion energy, but like we said, that's not really what they're there for. And I know you got a lot of draw here. We got 1 card draw. No, it's a boss's orders.
Oh, but can play the path down. I don't know how much that would help. I think that would just disrupt Leon himself, so I don't think he wants to put that into play.
He's already used all his Genesect anyway.
Yeah, but next turn, he doesn't want to be sat there with the Path to the Peak.
Oh, no, I don't think you play Path to the Peak. I'm just saying, all the Genesect to use, that DTE is not being found.
Oh, yeah.
I would heartily suggest not playing Path to the Peak.
Yeah, and I mean, this is an interesting stage of the game now, because we saw a similar thing last game where we thought, oh, Miraidon's getting ahead now. But actually, by gusting up the Miraidon and leaving that in the active, it's going to be a lot harder to power it, because you need to find those switch outs to reset the active. Yep. Otherwise, the only thing you can attack with is the Raichu. Now, if you're attacking with that Raichu, you're going to be losing energy again, and that's not ideal. So definitely an interesting spot we see here.
What's one interesting thing about this deck, Flaffy will accelerate beautifully, but only to one of your bench Pokemon. And Electric Generator will accelerate beautifully to one of your bench Pokemon. Nothing accelerates well to the active, and actually...
Oh, double Flaffy out there. So getting 1 Flaffy off the Ultra Ball, the other one off the Forest Seal Stone. and did get a switch off the prize card. So can reset the active, can get a Miraidon attack off here, and it's just whether they can get it off on something that isn't a Mew VMAX and go down that 2-2-2 line that's a little bit more optimal.
2-2-2 line would be ideal. I still really want to see an Ampu very much for 4 prizes. I'm just saying, it is a legitimate option. It could happen. Would win the game in 2 attacks. And actually, with a double Flaffy on the board, much bigger deal. But it actually looks like eyeing up a potential Raichu play here. But there's not enough. We're looking at 180 at the moment. Now, we haven't, I believe, had the attachment for turn yet.
That's true.
We've had the 2 Flaffy. We've had 1 from last turn. There's an attachment for turn. Oh, and an electric generator. If we see a double hit, this will actually do enough damage with the 10 damage from the Zapdos on the bench. Was that a single hit?
Just the 1, I believe. But that does mean Miraidon can attack here. Oh, they're going to just attack with the Raichu. And, oh, yes, the 5 energy plus the Zapdos.
Yeah,
that's going to be a knockout.
That is enough. That is exactly 310. I meant 1 hit with the electric generator. I said 2. That was silly. But hitting off the electric generator means that you do exactly 310, and that is a very big deal.
The Iono was sitting in Leon's hand, ready for this exact thing to happen.
Oh, no.
So it might seem like a great decision right now, but the main reason you wouldn't want to do that is the threat of an Iono coming straight at you the next turn, and that is exactly what we're going to see.
No.
1 card for Maciej and 6 for Leon. This could be the swing turn.
Were I a caster who liked puns more, I may say something like, oh no. But I'm not going there, Mike.
Well, you've done it now.
We'll let chat decide.
There's an energy. We can get some attacks going. And this is where it starts.
But that's the thing. Leon is going to take a couple of turns to really catch up here. So it's not like Maciej's got 1 turn to draw out of this. There are going to be, it's going to take a minimum 3 turns for Leon to kind of turn around and win this game. And that's assuming you've got the attacks lined up, you've got the modifiers to make sure you can KO. I must confess, I don't know exactly how many of the power tablets have been played so far. I know at least 1 has been played, maybe 2. So it might not even be a 3-turn win here. So it's not like Leon wins in a turn or 2 here.
Well, you've also got the Flaffy, so the energy will quickly come back into play, but it might take a few turns to do so. And if each of those turns energy comes into play and Leon takes out that Pokemon that's got energy on it, it could quickly fall away. So the Path to the Peak coming down, knowing that there is a lost vacuum in hand, ready to get rid of that next turn. Leon is fully disrupting this board state because Miraidon can no longer tandem unit a new attacker out.
Yeah, now, to be fair, 1 energy and an escape rope would actually do it.
Oh, yeah.
Top deck Professor's research helps very much indeed. There's a Super Rod. I like this very much indeed. You can get back what it is you need. Raichu, very obvious candidate because that's your big smasher. And then you get some energy back in. You've got enough in the discard that you can accelerate with Flaffy. You want some in the deck to draw into as well, because there's no point accelerating with Flaffy and then missing your turn attachment.
Research off the top.
I know. If you're Leon, you're not happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, the speed at which that Super Rod was played down, I think Leon is aware that that other card is something good. And he'll be hoping it's something like an Iono Self so that he's not going to see many more cards. But unfortunately, Research is pretty much the dream card in that scenario, seeing the most cards possible off of a single supporter.
Do we think we're going to see a high 5 off of this Professor's research?
I don't think so. I don't think that tradition has carried.
No, unfortunately not.
I love it. I've been bringing it into my games.
Oh, I'm always in favour. Now, Escape Rope is what I'm really looking for here, if it's still in the deck, because that would force something active that could be KO'd, attach for turn, double Flaffy, and that's it. That's the game. I don't think that's an option right now. So what we're doing is just spreading energy around the board. And this is where that Path to the Peak is actually coming in beautifully handy. Also, we see an electric generator here, because otherwise Miraidon would be bringing out Raichu right now.
Yeah, I mean, that electric generator was unlikely to hit. We've seen a lot go into the discard pile. 2 were put back in with the Super Rod, but for the most part, not much energy in the deck. But we do have the Squawkabilly in the active that could potentially put some more energy in play too. There is a Beach Court there, I think, in the hand. Obviously, no way to get a new active Pokemon, and don't really want to have to attack with the Miraidon, but interesting. I wonder... Oh, yes, so just setting up as much energy in play as possible.
And
so
I like this. I like not going for the Beach Court this turn, because if you go Beach Court this turn, your Leon can just gust up and KO the Raichu. You want Leon to think you don't have access to the Raichu. So, no, I think Maciej has played this absolutely beautifully.
And if you think about it now, there is no way to get enough energy off the board that wouldn't be able to get the Raichu going. If the Fluffy both remain, that's going to be 2 energy on the Fluffy, plus whichever of the Miraidon and the Squawkabilly still there, and then the Raichu will be get powered up. It would just need the retreat. But I think another hand disruption is going to be needed here for Leon. Otherwise, I think Maciej has it in hand.
Yeah, you just play the Beach Court, use Miraidon to tandem unit out the Raichu, accelerate twice with your Fluffy, retreat the Squawkabilly, or whatever is in the active, and then, yeah, you're absolutely golden at that point. So it is looking very, very good, unless Leon has got some hand disruption here.
Yeah, I mean, the Pal Pad was found out the deck to get the Ino back into the deck. So very clearly recognizing that Ino is the win condition. Going to try and find a way to draw towards it. Path of the Peak is in play now, but we'll be able to remove that with a Lost Vacuum. And plenty of cards to be played.
Yeah, there is the Lost Vacuum there, getting rid of the Path to the Peak so you can go and dig with those Genesect. It's a play we see a lot. Of course, there was a time where Path to the Peak was the anti-Mew card. And then Mew was like, wait, I can do that. But you still need a way out of it for this kind of point in the game. Get set up, play Path to the Peak, but have an out to remove it from the board if you get to a turn like this. So the good Mew players will be able to essentially set it and get rid of it on the turns that they need it.
Yeah, and we can see there is a Judge in hand, but that's not the optimal hand disruption right now. Wanting to try and get a full disruption with the Ino down to 1 card. Is it possible? There is another insta-playable, the Heavy Ball. Not looking through the prize cards, nothing needed there. The Judge is like an all-right backup at this stage, but the dream here would be to dig for the Ino that was put back in with the Pal Pad. And of course, we'll be seeing whether that happens here. Prize cards being shuffled after the Heavy Ball.
Yeah, Maciej, you've got too many cards in hand. So your opponent knows you've probably got something. And I love the play of not using Beach Court last turn. But now the problem is, Path to the Peak is back down. And look, you still don't need much. You still basically just need Raichu.
Yep.
But now you can't get it from Miraidon. So Beach Court would work, or Raichu itself, or Ultra Ball. There are a bunch of outs in the deck.
And 5 cards with the Judge plus top deck. This is very much a big turn here to decide the game. The disruption wasn't to the fullest. We didn't get to see the Ino from Leon, but this is a huge Judge. Will it disrupt? This is the kind of hand you want to see.
Boss's orders, Beach Court!
That's it! Oh
that
my goodness.
Well, have we got something that can... Oh, yes, we do. Okay, the Miraidon can get out the active. So there is an energy. There we go. Boss's orders. We don't even need the Raichu after all that because, of course, Boss's orders actually means you get something from the bench. KO with the Miraidon, which now has free energy. And we are going to game 3. After all that talk about the Raichu, it turned out, you know what? I've just put another energy on that and get the Boss's orders, which was the less likely play to pull off. But it worked really nicely. Yeah,
I guess the Beach Court was one of the options, and that's where that turn of just setting up a stable board state was so smart. You know, putting the energy in play, not trying to get a knockout, just using that Squawkabilly. How often do we see Squawkabilly used? Most of the time, it's a early game setup.
Surprisingly often, though. It's weird how often you actually do tend to see it. But you're right, it's not plan A by any stretch.
But in that situation, what it did is it put so much energy in board that the outs to winning in the next turn was so high. We saw a Boss, a Beach Court, both of those were viable options.
Yeah.
Like you said, an Ultra Ball would have done it. You know, there was all sorts of options available. So very smart board state management, and that's what's key for Miraidon. If you're going to get disrupted, you need to set up a way where your board can't be a problem, and that's why we're seeing the double Mareep decision making, and it seems to be the way that Maciej has found success in the past into Mew.
I really, really like the double Mareep. We've seen it both games, and I know game 1 it didn't work, and I fully understand. Like it's keeping your bench awkward. It is restricting your bench a little bit because you've got 5 spaces and 2 of them are taken up for that little sheep, all right? Get it entirely. But you know what? You've seen in that second game, we didn't really see it in game 1, but in game 2 we saw how huge that can be.
100%.
We do need to go back to earlier on in game 1 with that whiff of the double turbo energy.
Yep.
That things could have been very different.
Oh, that's the big factor there. And actually what was interesting was the whiff of the double turbo energy was kind of punished because Leon in his first hand had a fusion energy and a double turbo energy, chose to play the fusion energy onto the Genesect in case of a later game Spiritomb, and actually the Spiritomb couldn't come down for a while because there was no space on the board. So maybe that was the moment that changed that game completely, because it took away a turn for Leon. But as we go into game 3 here, Leon will be starting off nice and wide, nice and strong.
And an energy straight away, just in case. Also, the 1 Zapdos for Maciej is prized, and we saw how crucial that is to sometimes hitting the numbers, because Raichu, 5 energy Zapdos, that is how you one-hit KO a UV Max. It's basically the only way you do it, unless you want to go silly and go 6 energy.
So right here, Leon is hoping for some early aggression. Going first, hoping to get into a board state where they have everything needed to be able to get that knockout. And just, oh, an early path could be dangerous here as well.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we said it a minute ago, like beginning of the last game. Miraidon doesn't like Battle VIP Pass. It doesn't need it. It's got Tandem Unit. We'll go first and turn off Tandem Unit. That can really hurt Miraidon. We got 4 minutes left, and this is Swiss rounds. We can absolutely have ties. It's not like Top Cut where we have to crown a winner. So you kind of need an early win, or we're going to have a tie here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and he's drawn the path to the peak. So, yeah, I think that's what you have to do.
Well, he's had the path to the peak since the beginning, I believe.
Oh, he has. My apologies.
I think he's just trying to set up a board state where even if that Mew with the energy on gets knocked out, he is able to continue playing the game. Because did discard a Mew VMAX, right? Discarded a Mew VMAX earlier on with the Ultra Ball. And we can just see there, having to put the Mew down because I think he did start shuffling just before finishing it there. But yeah, 3 Mew in play, 3 Genesect, energy on board. We'll be looking to get that final disruption, has an extra energy available, and will be passing that one over.
And this is the chance for Leon to actually finish out this match. Hope that Maciej doesn't have enough Pokemon and that you can basically just run through what they do have. Oh, but there's a Professor's Research. There's already 3 Pokemon, including the Spiritomb and the Mareep. The Mareep and the Path to the Peak are turning off your Genesect. And it was a good plan, but it does seem an awful lot like this is how we end up in a tie. But we still got 3 minutes.
Interesting that Leon left the Mew with the energy on in the active. Potentially could have retreated that to protect the energy. If an attack comes off here, it could be detrimental. But as we know, there are 2 Path to the Peak in Maciej's list, so not the most available outs to getting rid of a Path to the Peak. Looking to try and be the Path to the Peak player in the game themselves. But there is a lost vacuum there.
Yeah, so it does actually have a Path to the Peak in hand, incidentally.
Yep.
Of course, you cannot play a stadium over the same one on the board. But here we do see, like you say, the lost vacuum. Get rid of that. And then the main reason, of course, for Squawk and Seize. But hey, maybe we go for this instead. And this seems to be what Maciej's thinking here, which is just, maybe if I go Super Turbo, I can just about win in the time available.
Yeah, I mean, getting enough energy in play, Raichu, 2 knockouts could be enough. As you mentioned, the Amp you very much is a possibility to try and take more prizes on a damaged Mew VMAX too. But at this stage, the Squawk and Seize, with no Path to the Peak in play, any kind of Bull Search or a Miraidon would start that final chain of the Miraidons. But with the Spiritomb, the Squawkabilly in play, there's not a huge amount of room left.
I was going to say, it's not really much of a chain. It's Miraidon finds 1 mate, and then that's it. So you can bring
sheep.
1 friend to your party.
And it probably would be that Mareep, right? We've seen the double Mareep be a priority here.
Yeah, we see Maciej be pretty clear about that. Likes having that double Mareep. Now, we do see an Ultra Ball, but we do need to be thinking about time here. Essentially, you've got this turn, then maybe 2 others. Now, the good news is, have we got the KO on board at the moment? No, we got 2 energy, so we would need to hit an energy off a generator in order to get a KO this turn.
Yeah, and you can see actually the Forest Sealstone, an interesting card now that's not available to that Raichu because I think there's an EXP share on it.
There is.
So that's kind of blocked the ability to do that. And actually going to get another Raichu down for the Forest Sealstone here, I believe.
Yet none of this matters unless Maciej can finish their turn in the next 45 seconds. Because if they get left as turn 0, they get one more turn. They are not finishing out this game. If they can finish this turn in the next 37 seconds, taking a KO on that Mew, guaranteeing themselves 2 more turns with a chance to win the game on those turns, yes, it is absolutely winnable, but they need to finish their turn with a KO in the next 24 seconds.
That's why they've gone for that electric generator, as you mentioned, knowing that a knockout is required here. So
going too slowly, they're not going to finish their turn in time.
We'll be going for that generator here.
And we see Leon shuffling there, as is absolutely entitled to do. We will get exact confirmation as to when time is called and who is turn 0, just in case that clock is a second or 2 out on the screen. So somebody will give us that confirmation in a moment. We do see an energy off the generator, and we did. You might have seen in Maciej's face cam there, I believe you saw the judge's hand come over and kind of point your turn 0, which means we're not going to see a conclusion to this game.
Yeah, I don't think so here, but strong performance from both sides. You know, they've shown exactly what it is possible with these decks. You know, the disruption from you is amazing, and of course Maciej on that early aggression can really set you up for, I just need one more knockout to win this game, and you can eventually get out of it as long as the judges and INOs aren't too disruptive. But of course I think both players just playing out the final turns here, recognizing that it's likely going to be a draw. But of course, still an amazing place to be. 501, and a top record that's going to keep you on those top tables for the rest of the day if you keep up that winning way.
Oh, absolutely. And there is the handshake. Neither player can end out the game. So we finish at 1 win each. Game 3 doesn't finish. We have a tie. So both players are on a 5-0-1 record and in pretty good standing for day 2 as it stands at the moment.
Not made it yet.
No. Good standing. They need one more.